Good morning, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to another edition of Breaking News. Today is Tuesday, the 13th day of May, 2025. And as we look at the beginning of Donald Trump's Middle East trip, interestingly, we find that all the major players with respect to last day's Bible prophecy are in the headlines today. For example, our first headline, Trump lands in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. This is from the Jerusalem Post. Second headline, Trump offers to join potential Russia-Ukraine talks in Turkey. This is a Reuters story. Then number three, we move to Israel. Things you've never seen before going to happen in Gaza. This is Benjamin Netanyahu from the Jerusalem Post. Then finally, Iran warns Europe snapback sanctions could lead to irreversible escalation. This is from Virtual Jerusalem. Now, as a reminder, in the last days, according to Ezekiel 38:39, there'll be a massive invasion of Israel, and there are four interest groups involved. First of all, Israel, who will be invaded. Then the invading force led by Russia, which will include Iran and Turkey and also Libya and Sudan. We've mentioned that over and over again from Scripture. Then number three, there is going to be a number of nations that will protest. They won't be involved in the invasion, but they will protest. They're mentioned by name, Sheba and Dedan. That's the ancient names. That's modern-day Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states. And then number four, the fourth interest group, are those nations that are conspicuous by their absence. Egypt is not mentioned at all. And of course, the United States is not mentioned. But the fact that this leader of the coalition, his title is Gog, decides to invade Israel, doesn't even have a second thought about anyone coming to the help of Israel in the last days, tells us that the United States is not a player. For whatever reason, they're not going to be a player in this last day's invasion. And as we know from Scripture, there is no nation who comes to the aid of Israel. And so Gog thinks Israel is in their grasp, going to take things there that don't belong to them. The problem is, one thing God didn't think about is that the living God is going to stand up on the side of Israel, and that's what the scriptures say is going to happen. So anyway, these nations now that are mentioned in Scripture, they're all the ones that are going to be involved in this invasion. Those who are going to sit on the sidelines. The country is going to be invaded, Israel, and of course, those who are conspicuous by their absence are all in the headlines today. This is no coincidence, people. This is what's going on right now as the stage is being set for the last day's fulfillment of the prophecies given in Scripture. So let's look at the headlines and examine what's going on. Now, this first one is really interesting because it's one of the things we've been looking at and asking questions about. Trump lands in Riyadh. This is from the Jerusalem Post. Accompanied by prominent American business leaders, Trump will visit Riyadh first, the site of the Saudi U.S. Investment Forum. U.S. President Donald Trump arrived in Saudi Arabia on Tuesday to begin a four-day tour of the Gulf region. Now, here's the takeaway. With a focus on economic agreements rather than regional security issues, including the war in Gaza and the growing tension over Iran's nuclear program. So the emphasis is on business, not security. Accompanied by prominent American business leaders, he's got Elon Musk with him. He's going to visit Riyadh first, the site of this forum. Then he's going to Qatar tomorrow, and the United Arab Emirates on Thursday. With energy remains a cornerstone of our relationship. The investments and business opportunities in the kingdom have expanded and multiplied many, many times over. This is from the Saudi Investment Minister Khalid Al-Falih, said as he opened the forum today. That's what's going on in Saudi Arabia. As a result, when Saudis and Americans join forces, very good things happen. More often than not, great things happen when these joint ventures happen, he added, speaking ahead of Trump's arrival. The forum began with a video montage featuring soaring eagles and falcons, celebrating the long-standing relationship between the United States and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And it's got a list of basically who's who with a sense of finance here today in the world. And we don't need to go down through the list, but the point is it's business leaders. And as the story goes, Saudi Arabia and the United States have enjoyed decades of strong ties anchored by a long-standing agreement in which the kingdom supplies oil and the superpower provides security. They give us the oil, they sell us the oil, we give them security. So here's a takeaway, and please note this. The focus will be on economic agreements rather than regional security crises, including the war in Gaza and the growing tension over Iran's nuclear program. It's all about money, money, money. So this is our first headline. So this is key because we've had all these stories saying it's about security, about Iran's nuclear program, about this and that, when it's about money, money, money. Then we have this. Number two, Trump offers to join potential Russian-Ukraine talks in Turkey. This is a Reuters story. U.S. President Donald Trump offered on Monday to join prospective Ukraine-Russia talks in Turkey later this week, as European countries push to get the Kremlin to accept their demand for a 30-day ceasefire in the war in Ukraine. Remember, Putin said, I want a full ceasefire. Now I'm looking forward to that. Okay, he spoke a day after Ukraine President Zelensky, in a fresh twist to the stop-start peace process, said he would travel to Istanbul, where he said he would be waiting to meet Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin. And then Trump said, I've got so many meetings, but I was thinking about actually flying over there. There's a possibility of it, I guess, if I think things can happen, but we've got to get it done, Trump said before departing on a second foreign trip since his second term in the White House began in January. So will he go? Will he go there? Well, who knows? But the fact that he's interested and these things have to take place, as we've mentioned over and over again, particularly this a ceasefire between Iran and Russia to allow Russia eventually to, put an army together and a coalition that will invade Israel. They certainly can't do it now with all their assets militarily fighting Ukraine. So it's interesting that these negotiations will be taking place, it seems. And so we'll keep an eye on that. And now we move on to Israel. Here is from the Jerusalem Post, Benjamin Netanyahu. Things you've never seen before are going to happen in Gaza, he said. Within days, they're going to happen in Gaza. Things you've never seen before, he told the War Wounded Forum on Monday, yesterday, this. His statement comes after Israeli sources have signaled that the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, readiness to expand combat operations in the Gaza Strip. An Israeli official told the Jerusalem Post at the moment Eden Alexander returns home, and he is now home, Israel will resume combat operations. The IDF had stopped operations for the Israeli-American hostage safe crossing, but emphasized it would resume combat as soon as he was in Israel. He's back and combat is resuming. Additionally, on Sunday, an Israeli official told the Post that Israel's ultimatum to Hamas regarding the launch of a widened Gaza offensive is still in effect after his release. Israel previously gave Hamas a deadline to either release 10 hostages in exchange for 45-day ceasefire or face a widened Gaza offensive. Donald Trump, same deadline to Hamas, was his 4-day Middle East trip. He said, you make a deal or suffer the consequences. Israel, as we mentioned yesterday, has a delegation going to Qatar to try to give Hamas one last chance. And of course, we'll keep our eyes on this to see if some deal is made. If not, then it's going to be really, sound and fury. It looks like a lot of things going on militarily there in Gaza, like Netanyahu said, that you've never seen before. So what's going to happen? Will there be a last minute agreement? Will Hamas knuckle under and agree to release 10 hostages? Or will the IDF just really finally do what they need to do and finish off as much as they can Hamas once and for all in Gaza? So stay tuned for that. And finally, Iran. Now they're making making threats to Europe. Headline number 4 is from Virtual Jerusalem. Iran warns Europe snapback sanctions could lead to irreversible escalation. Oh, they're really scared, everybody, aren't they? Iran's foreign minister warns Britain, France, and Germany that using the UN snapback sanctions mechanism could lead to irreversible tensions and end to Europe's role in the 2015 nuclear deal. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi issued a stark warning to European powers on Monday, cautioning that any move to trigger UN sanctions on Tehran could lead to a serious and potentially irreversible escalation in tensions. This is from Reuters now. Under the terms of the UN Security Council resolution, remember that in 2015, the nuclear agreement between Iran and the 5 world powers, the so-called JCPOA, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which Obama put into place. The nations, they're called the E3, Britain, France, and Germany, they retain the ability to reinstate international sanctions against Iran through the snapback mechanism that was part of the deal, should Iran be found in serious breach of the pact. This window, interesting, remains open till October 18th, when the 10 years are up, and Iran feels it won't have to abide by any of this because the 10 years that, have already gone by. It's amazing how quick it's taken place. And Britain, France, and Germany recently informed the UN Security Council they stand ready to trigger the snapback mechanism. So Iran now basically is trying to frighten them. It could be the end of Europe's role in the agreement, but an escalation in tensions that become irreversible. This is Argachi, the Iranian person there. He wrote an op-ed for the French magazine Le Point, and he made this threat. So the warning comes again as the diplomatic maneuvering around Iran's nuclear program intensifies with Donald Trump, who withdrew from the JCPOA in 2018, has held 4 rounds of indirect talks with Iran. And so the E3 nations, these European ones, now they're outside of the current negotiations, but reportedly have been coordinating with Washington over the possibility of initialing these sanctions again against Iran. All right, here's the bottom line. We have said this and we continue to say Iran is desperate to make a deal with the US and Europe. Otherwise, they will be attacked. This is what's going to take place. As we mentioned recently, Iran, we said, would reach out to China for help. Guess what? A recent Jerusalem Post story, I think it was yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday, I believe, read as follows: Iran eyeing closer tech cooperation with China, bypassing the West. All right. For a comprehensive understanding of what's going to take place with these various nations, we have mentioned in this headline, these headlines here on Breaking News. Please see our book, 25 Signs. We're near the end, signs 9 through 11, where we talk about the Ezekiel 38-39 invasion and the 4 interest groups. Who's going to be invaded? Israel. Who's involved in the invasion? Russia, Iran, and Turkey, amongst others. Who protest? Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states. And who sits it out? That will be United States and Egypt, among others. And so we deal with that. Also, and as far as China is concerned, we need to encourage you to look at our book, 45 Common Mistakes About Last Days Bible Prophecy Cleared Up, mistakes 27 through 30. 4 common mistakes when you try and equate Revelation 9 and Revelation 16, the 200 million man army and the campaign in Armageddon. It's not the same thing. And the kings of the East does not refer to modern day China. The East in John's day referred to basically where modern day Iran is, certainly not China, the Far East. And so, bottom line is this: all the major players are front and center in the headlines today: Iran, Russia, Turkey, Israel, while the U.S. and China, who are not part of the last days Bible prophecy according to Scripture, are playing a role. You really can't make this stuff up. So we know what's eventually going to happen. In the short term, it's going to be real interesting to see. So as always, stay tuned. I'm Don Stewart. Thanks for watching. Until next time, as always, may the Lord richly, richly bless.